Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and we are starting Horrorfest 2017. That's right, PCP movie night, Night of the Living Dead. That's right, everybody. We watched Night of the Living Dead because sadly, George A. Romero passed away this year, so we decided to start Horrorfest, which we love here at Pop Culture Philosophers, with Night of the Living Dead. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is
Brooks.
And this is
John Hammertime, Holshoe.
And we are excited to talk to you about Night of the Living Dead. We watched it tonight. 49th anniversary, 50th anniversary next year. Came out in 1968. Directed, of course, and written and edited and filmed and a whole bunch of other stuff by George A. Romero. I love this film. It's so good. It still is relevant today. And I want to know what the pop culture philosophers have to think about it. So, John, what do you think about the movie on the rewatch? This is probably like, what, the 80th time you've watched this movie?
I've only seen it a few times. Because I've seen the remake a couple times as well.
Okay.
It's not very good. No, it's a classic. It's a great film. It's slow paced. It definitely, if you've never seen the film and you go back and watch this film after watching other zombie films, it feels like a step backwards, but this is the one that started it all.
Yes.
And it may have some problems, but it's a landmark film for its time. Visually, I think it looks great. I think the cast is great. I think for being their first legit film, or George A. Romero, because I know he did commercials and stuff.
Yes.
There's no bad acting. It's not like Clerks where it looks like somebody's reading off a damn cue card. I think the acting's great. I think the effects are great. I love everything about it, especially the budget. Given the budget, it's impressive what they did.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I will disagree with you on this, though, John. I think it's a very brisk film. I think it's very tight and concise and paced very, very well. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this film. The fact that it's filmed in black and white because of budget, but thematically and atmospherically, it adds so much to the movie. I love this movie. You got Dwayne Jones playing the main character, Ben. Phenomenal in this movie, is he not? He's
great.
Absolutely amazing. This movie speaks on so many different levels. Speaking of levels, and speaking all over them. That's Brooks the Magnificent right here. What do you think about the movie on the rewatch, man? For real.
I still like it. I'm not really a big horror movie guy, but this is one that I really enjoy. And I watch this one anytime. I like this. It's more atmospheric in its horror rather than like most horror movies today with the jump scares and all that.
Yeah.
It's like there's no jump scares in this movie really. It's very much about the situation and the horror of like thinking, how would you deal with the situation that's going on right now? Like, because nobody knows what's going on. It just kind of comes out of the blue.
Yeah. And think about it as an audience member back in 1968. The zombie movies didn't exist at the time, and Romero himself
kind of set a lot of the rules too.
Yeah, set a lot of the rules. You got to shoot them in the head. You got to, you got to burn them. All this kind of stuff. Back in the day, you didn't know. Like when they're like describing in the movie that there's just a bunch of assassins out, apparently a bunch of mass murderer. Oh wait, they're eating people. What? The dead are returning to life. Like that was so new. We can't even put ourselves in that mindset to really think about what audiences in 1968, how this movie impacted them and their culture, but it still stands the test of time. It's a brilliant film, brilliantly written, expertly directed, and this is, George A. Romero and company's like first feature film. They were doing commercials up in Pittsburgh, and they were like, you know what, we can make a movie. Horror films were making lots of, like, horror films could be made cheaply and still like have a really good recoup, have a lot of money made back. Horror films are still made in excess today because of those same reasons. They can be made cheaply and they can actually make a lot of money. So I think the movie is great. George A. Romero, we're gonna miss him. I would have liked one more of the Dead movie for real. But one of our favorite things about George A. Romero, and we mentioned this on our 70s horror podcast coming up very, very soon, 70s horror movies podcast, he was always speaking something in these films, like no joke. It's social commentary. What thematically is this movie speaking about, do you think, Brooks?
Well, I mean, it's obviously, the race thing is obviously there.
Yes. Yeah.
The Ben character, I mean, it's like, he knows what he's doing. He's in charge. but the later on when he meets the bald guy.
Yeah.
The bald guy is very hesitant to follow him. I think because
there's pride. There's all kinds of prejudices involved. Yeah.
And it's a matter of trust. Like if you were in that situation, who would you be able to trust?
Yeah. There is a racial tone to this movie because the main character is a black man, and in 1968, that wasn't
I hadn't noticed. I don't see color.
Okay, that wasn't really, that wasn't how it was in 1968. It's kind of rarely how it is even still today. But so there is that, and that alone was a statement. But then the idea to me that this just about in the late 60s when this film came out, and it kind of started that whole 70s horror movie boom, and we were mentioning this on the podcast. But all this tension in America at the time, there's racial tension, right? There's class tension. There's tension over the war in Vietnam and like the counterculture and sexual liberation and women's lib and shit like that, right? So you get all this stuff going on, and there's a lot of tension in America, like today. I think this movie is so relevant. It's about you gotta work together. If you don't work together, you're doomed to failure, no matter who is right or who is wrong. Because we were watching the movie and I was like, that dude is right. They just need to go in the cellar. But Ben was right too. They needed to stay out there. They needed to know what was going on. They all needed to. If they'd been
united, it would have been Ben's plan would have been better.
Exactly. If they would have been united, and that's what the other dude that Jeff, for lack of a better term, looks like our homie Jeff. But he was like, if we could work together, this is gonna work. If the three of us get together, we can do this. And I really think so. It would have worked. Gore, the makeup, everything was really beyond its time in 1968. We're talking about a time where everything was like faux supernatural and like atomic giant ants and stuff. So speaking of atomic giant ants, John, what do you think about the movie thematically? What does it speak on? And how is it relevant?
There really is that unification if they can work together or not work together. I really think that, again, they should have stayed up there, worked together, which they should have done. And I still think that going to the basement, the cellar, should have been the fallback or going upstairs. But if they
during
the
movie, you said they should go upstairs, and we're like,
or go upstairs. Yeah. Well, then you trap yourself upstairs. But still, you should have a fallback. But I think if you work together downstairs, Ben's idea was a good idea had they worked together. And I think again that draws from this. There was racial tension. There was all this divide in the real world, and they carried it into the film. And Romero did that in a lot of his films, like you said.
Yeah.
And when I said it was slow paced, I didn't mean the movie was slow paced. I mean the movie is slow paced in comparison to subsequent zombie films,
where like the zombies are slow and not like running.
No. I mean the story itself feels slow, just compared to those.
Yeah,
but it set up the genre.
They don't know what zombies are.
Yeah, it set up the genre. Yeah. I'm not saying it's slow. The film itself is not slow. It set up the genre and the other subsequent films. But of course, subsequent films are also all the zombie, with the exception of 28 Days Later. Yeah. All the other ones are Romero films. All the other great zombie films happen to be his films. I think the only ones I can think of that are great films are zombie films.
There's the Fulci film Zombie 2, which is amazing. So, you haven't seen it. You should watch that movie.
I should watch that too. But so I just wanted to backtrack and say I don't think the film. Okay.
I'm sorry for misrepresenting you, man. Absolutely.
But yeah, unification is the big thing. If they would have worked together, they would have made it all out there alive. To be honest with you, I think they would have still been alive today.
We are stronger together than we're apart. Lost fans will recognize this line. You either stand together, you live together. Live together. You live together or you die alone. Right? And then that ending, that just gut-wrenching ending was just like...
Lost or to...
to The Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Spoilers if you haven't seen it. Why are you watching this video?
But it's a frustrating
when
ending.
Ben gets shot, even though he survives.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a punch to the gut.
Let us know what you thought down below about Night of the Living Dead. Does it hold up? Is it still relevant thematically and cinematically? Let us know. We love talking to you guys in the comments down below. This has been
Brooks.
This has been
John Hammertime Holshoe.
And I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. We are the Pop Culture Philosophers. Thanks for checking out the video. Please do subscribe. We do this every so often. We got more Horrorfest coming up. Dawn of the Dead next, actually, as part of a Romero tribute. Movie reviews about horror films that we love. Here at Pop Culture Philosophers, we also do comic book reviews, top 5 lists, blogs, and a whole lot more, including our podcast. It's found at popculturephilosophers.com. Thanks for rocking with us. Dig 'em. Deuces. Keep on. Hubert is awesome.
I don't know what's going on.
Zombies.
Hubert's pretty awesome.
Zombies.
Or Dogbert.
He's just
That's
throwing
something
words
different
together.
altogether.
I am.
We just lost all our followers.
They'll be back.